Good morning, everybody. I'm Keegan. Welcome to back to the channel. Today we got a motor in the car. Hopefully by the end of it, we don't. We're gonna start removing miscellaneous things we don't need. Hood latch, wiper fluid stuff, probably the wiper assembly because it's gonna have to get moved forward. Shopcat now says hello. Simba's in his outside life. My guy, be careful. A little bit of glass there. He'll be all right. Send him on his way. And probably gonna get this bar out today. Cut it. I'm probably gonna leave these core supports for the miscellaneous accessories and stuff. So we'll probably cut it up top. That way we can just kind of knock this down to be a comfortable level. I know it was kind of in question in the last video, but had some decision making. We're gonna try to get a hold of some Forester struts, get this car off of coilovers. That's kind of like a direct 2-inch lift on top of the stock impreza wagon stuff. And then the strut tower is probably gonna get cut down. I'm not sure how much yet, but we're gonna work it down. That's also gonna add lift in the back, and if I have to, I'll make spacers for the rear. But I think you can only go like 4 inches before you start messing with geometry and putting a lot of strain on miscellaneous axles and the motors. So we're gonna get into it. And we're back, guys. Had to wash my hands before picking up the GoPro, but here we are, back at it. Tried to leave the AC lines all intact and the power steering lines all intact. Kind of worked my way from the top down, having never worked with the flat 4. It's a little different going from the L series, the V8s that I'm used to. Definitely the two hardest bolts were these engine mount bolts. Just wasn't used to it, and had to drop the exhaust and kind of move the sway bar a little bit to get up there. That was really the hardest part. Labeled some of these wires. These two are pretty obvious, the brown and gray. Go the brown and gray. Gonna try to maintain all these lines. You know, the brake booster has to be there. Gonna try to maintain the heat. Starter had to come out. But everything was pretty direct, and there's a lot of room in this engine bay, surprisingly, without even me having cut it or anything. But now that I know I can buy chromoly tubing online, we're definitely gonna cut all this down and try to make it look a little bit more badass to match the rest of the car. Not sure why I waited so long on the radiator. Knowing my rate of popping them, I probably should have done that first, but it was just those two bolts up top. Got them out, and here she is. Progress. Sometime later, and further investigation, we pop this cover off. This part of the cover, goes right here. This was already cracked, and it had black duct tape when I first bought the car. So, and also the front had been hit. We showed it in some of the earlier videos, but it's interesting to see these little chunks missing out of this belt. Like it hit and ran for a couple seconds before it fully stopped. Hopefully that's not entirely why this engine was knocking, but it started first try. When we first picked it up, I drove it into the garage. Hopefully it's just the main bearing. I did drain the oil. The oil was pretty good. Only a little bit of flake, but no big metal chunks or anything. So when we go through this, we'll just be sure to check a lot of the tolerances. And about 2 ratchets and wrenches. He's got a video from like 8 years ago on how to release this, and it's still pretty relevant today. Basically get a 14, go up real slow with your breaker bar or whatever you're using. And thankfully Josh gave me a bunch of cheap Chinese bits, so it's perfect for weaving in here. There's a little piston right on in there. So you push this all the way through, and then when you let off of this, it'll bring everything down, release that tension, and we can just release this belt. We're gonna take it off, but that's how you do it. Pretty ingenious. And didn't have an impact gun for this dampener bolt, so we wedged a flathead between the kind of inspection cover in the flywheel, and then just took that breaker bar, put another piece of metal on it over here, and that finally broke it off after a little bit of wrestling. Alright guys, master mechanic Simba here has diagnosed the good old bearing. If you can hear that, you're not supposed to have that much play. So that's where the knocking is coming from, and this oil looked to be extremely dark. And there is that good old metal flake in here. See how different the color is, just where it's settled. I feel like somebody else has been in here based on the amount of insane caked gasket maker that's just everywhere for everything, even the flanges. I do think it's a low mile car though, because a lot of the bolts instantly cranked. Even if somebody wasn't here, they're still pretty clean. I don't know, I'm pretty happy with immediately seeing that. There were no major big chunks, but we're still gonna split the block. Probably do that tomorrow hopefully, or the day after. But we're gonna pick up that Ecotech motor for the S12 and keep everything chugging. We're gonna get some rebuild kit, probably do the water pump, oil pump, all the seals, all of the bearings obviously, and we're gonna throw her back together, figure out some seat situation, pedal situation, tube out this front end, and start jumping stuff while hopefully it's still warm. Take it easy.